StraightallDay.com.
StraightallDay.com. Today's daily motivation question is, what are your standards? What are your standards? And this is something that, if you're familiar with my work, and those of you who are not, this is something you'll come to understand. I talk about standards a lot. And what is a standard? A standard is a baseline level of performance, baseline level of energy, of showing up, just a baseline of what is acceptable versus what is not acceptable. That's what a standard is. It's kind of like somebody can have a standard of, I'm always going to be in a certain shape. Somebody can have a standard of how much money they make. You can have a standard for, if you run a business, how your employees talk to customers. And the reason why standards matter so much is because standards are parameters. They are guardrails. They are basically expectations that you are setting on yourself. Because we're talking about your standards, not other people. What are the expectations that you set for yourself for which you will accept nothing less? Now, why does this matter? Why does it matter to have standards? The reason it matters to have standards is because when you set baseline levels of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, you are basically telling yourself what your life is going to look like. Your life will be a reflection of your standards. Maybe you've heard me talk about expectations, or maybe you have talked about expectations. What is an expectation? Expectation is a standard that you are setting for future outcomes. That's what an expectation is. If you're expecting to make a certain amount of money next month, you're expecting to make $10,000 next month, what are you doing? You are setting a standard, or at least you're envisioning this standard that you'll be able to hit that number. I like standard better than expectation, because a standard is something you're saying that this absolutely must happen and you're giving yourself a mandate. Whereas an expectation is more of a thought. You're thinking about it, maybe you're wishing you want it to happen, but you're not mandating it. A standard is a mandate, meaning this is the rule and this is what it is, and anything less than this is not okay. And the reason why this is such an important concept is because many of you have zero standards. You don't have any standards. You have not set any mandates for yourself that says this absolutely must happen. I absolutely must achieve at this level. I absolutely must get this done. I absolutely must be getting everything done within this frame of time. And because you don't have standards, this is the reason why your performance is uneven, inconsistent, and less than what you would want it to be, because you have no standards. I'll give you a few examples. I heard Jordan Belfort talk once. Some of you know who he is. If you saw the movie called The Wolf of Wall Street with Leo DiCaprio, that movie is based on a true story. This guy, Jordan Belfort. Now, I heard Jordan talk. He came to Miami a few years ago, and he spoke. And this was actually him, not Leo DiCaprio. And he was talking about how one of his baselines, and this wasn't even the purpose of his talk, but he mentioned that one of his baselines was that he needed to make $20 million a year. And if it got to like October and he was only at 15 million, it was hard for him to like sleep or eat, because he's like, how the hell do I make this next? I got to make this $5 million because I'm not at my standard of 20 million. That was an example of a standard for him. I'm not saying you had to have a standard of $20 million a year, but if money is important to you, you need to set some standards for how much money you need to make and when you need to make it. Give you an example from my own personal life. I stopped playing professional basketball in 2015, but I'm still in professional athlete shape. Like, if you saw me and you didn't know anything about me, and I told you I was a professional athlete, you would believe me. Why? Because I'm always going to be in professional athlete shape, and the reason is not because I have some genetic luck that other people don't have, is because I've set a standard for myself that I'm always going to be in pro athlete shape, even if I'm not playing a pro sport. That's a standard for me. You need to know what your standards are. What are the standards that you have for yourself? Companies have standards. There are restaurants out there, for example, high-end restaurants, where the wait staff, that's the waiters and the waitresses, there's a standard that if they are not bringing in at least $9,000 a month in tips, they get fired. Because $9,000 a month is going to equate to them earning $100,000 a year in tips. And if a waiter or waitress can't turn $9,000 a month in tips, they get fired from the job. Now, why would a job fire a waiter for not making tips? I mean, isn't the tips just their money? Why does the company care whether you make tips or not? because the tips are a reflection of the bill, right? Usually the tip is some percentage of the bill. So the company figures if you're getting $9,000 a month in tips, that means you're making sure the bill is a certain amount, which means you're upselling, you're suggestive selling, you're making sure people get dessert, you're selling them drinks, you're selling them appetizers. So if you can't get $9,000 a month in tips, you're doing something wrong as far as operating this job, and you need to leave here and go work somewhere else that would be better suited for you. In other words, the company is setting a standard for the staff that serves not only the company but also serves the staff. So it actually takes care of two needs at the same time. The whole point is there is a standard. So you don't have to go too into detail with these examples. I'm giving you these examples to help you understand that people who perform at a high level at anything that they do, it is because they have standards in those areas. It's not because they just randomly do stuff and they're just randomly talented, or they're lucky, or any other nonsense excuses that many people use when they see someone else performing at a higher level than them. When someone's performing at a higher level than you consistently, I'm not talking about they did it one time, but consistently, is because they have a standard that is different than the standards that you have. Or maybe they have standards, period, and you have none, period. That's usually the issue. And I talk to people every single day. One thing that I can say for sure is that most people have no standards. You have not sat down and said to yourself, these are the baseline levels that I will accept nothing less from in these particular areas of my life. I would suggest what you do as a result of listening to what I'm saying in this video. I want you to sit down and think of 3 to 5 areas of your life. Just 3 to 5 areas, no more than that. No more than 5. And ask yourself, and these are the areas that matter most to you. What standards do I want to set for myself in these areas of my life? So for you, it might be with your family, your spouse, and your kids. It might be your physical fitness. It might be your finances. It might be your career or your business. It might be, what's another area it could be? It might be your friends, just your relationships that you have with other people. But whatever those areas are, you need to decide what are the standards that I want to set to where nothing less than this is acceptable. It can be something as simple as, every week I'm going to make sure I call my parents and have a conversation just so I can stay in touch with them. Or it could be, I'm going to make sure that I'm not staying up past 11 o'clock every night, because when I stay up past 11, I end up sleeping in and not waking up in the morning to do my workout. And because I keep missing those workouts, that's the reason why I'm 15 pounds overweight right now. Or it could be, I need to earn $10,000 a month in revenue, because that's what I need to make sure I can take care of my living expenses and a lifestyle that I want to provide for myself and for my family. You just need to decide what are the standards, and those standards need to be something that is measurable, something that you can look at and say, I did it or I didn't do it. Not a standard is not a feeling. Everybody, now, feeling is fine. I'm not saying feelings are bad, but when we're setting standards need to be black and white, measurable, something that you can count and look at and say, I did it, I didn't do it, or now that I did this, I'm above the standard, I'm not there yet, whatever that standard is going to be. All right, so you need to decide 3 to 5 areas of your life where that matter the most to you, but then you need to decide what the standards are going to be in those places. Now, your standards could be one thing, like, for example, business, $10,000 a month. It could be one thing. Your standards could be 10 things. You can make a long list of things that you want to be the standards in these areas, but you do need to set these standards, and they need to be clear, they need to be measurable, and you need to be able to articulate them exactly as they are, to the point that you can show me your standards and I can look at it and I can understand exactly what they are. Not anything that is intangible and open to interpretation. That's not a standard. Standards are not open to interpretation. Standards are black and white and clear. And some of you may be listening to this right now and this feels maybe a little bit anxiety inducing for you, or makes you a little bit nervous, because, and as a matter of fact, let me say this, it should make you nervous. It should induce anxiety in you, some of these standards. The reason why? Because most people are not used to being held to standards. Many of you are just not used to even having standards or being held to them. So this very idea of creating standards, even for yourself, makes you uncomfortable. Because you're like, damn, now I got something that's going to be measured as far as me actually, as far as me actually performing, as far as me actually doing stuff, and somebody's going to be able to see it and count it and know whether I did it or not. Damn, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. That's exactly why you need it. That's exactly why you need standards, because you're not ready for it. The reason why you're not ready for it is you've never done it before. So it feels a little bit uncomfortable for you. It should be uncomfortable for you because you've never done it before. Just doing something that you've never done before that's going to raise your performance to a different level should be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. But we all understand the concept of the comfort zone, right? What states what? For you to get something that you haven't had in life before, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to step out of what you're used to doing and do something that you have not done before. Everybody agrees with that concept, right? And just as a general idea, everybody agrees with that? Okay. So that's exactly why you need it. Set some standards for yourself. And when you set standards, you will be living and performing at a higher level than where you are right now. You'll be living and performing at a higher level than most people, because again, most people have no standards. They never even consider the concept of standards. And listen, many people hear me talk about something like this, what I'm talking about right now, and they are unwilling to even set or make standards for themselves because it makes them too uncomfortable to know that they could possibly be held accountable even by yourself, let alone by somebody else. So with that said, text me and tell me that you want to get my daily motivation text that I send out every single day for free. That message is in addition to what I send out in these daily motivation YouTube videos. You want to get the text, daily motivation is a different message. My number is 305-384-6894, and Work on Your Game University. That is where I do all my coaching. All my higher level trainings are at the university. Just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. The link's down below in the description. Number to get the text is down below as well. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you like this video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what's the best idea, the best thought, or the best practice you're going to get from what I talked about here in this daily motivation vid down in the comment section. That'll help us in the algorithm get these videos pushed out to more people on YouTube. And that's that, everybody. Work on your game. Have a